Hello everyone, I've arrived in Kilkenny, ready for the game night kit. Don't know how busy it's going to be today. I know there's a Game of Thrones tournament on in Galway, which means numbers could be a little lower today. I know Oisin, for example, is going to be over there, which is a pity. It's a pity. Netrunner seems to be in a tricky spot at the moment. Escalation's just out, so Dublin had a game night kit yesterday, where escalation was actually legal, which seems kind of mad, but I can see why they do it. I can see why a shop would definitely encourage people to be buying the pack, but it seems mad from a tournament standpoint. But apparently there was only 2 or 3 people there yesterday, which, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't even know why. I mean, I know why I wasn't there, but I think I'm an edge case scenario. Don't run tournaments on the same day as one of the biggest rugby matches of the year, and you'll get me. Today I'll be playing Controlling the Message and Andromeda. No, maybe Mr. Nice Guy, come to play. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the Controlling the Message deck that broke out for a little while before the escalation dropped on Kentucky. So I'm going to see how it fares in the tournament setting when people are possibly prepared for it. But curious to see just how it plays out as well. Got to make sure I remember all the real life triggers, that kind of thing. And Andromeda, which I've been playing with for a little while. I have tried to shore up its glacier weakness with Katie Jones, but we'll see how that fares. So it should be a fun day out, and I will keep you posted obviously with all that happens in the coming clips. So, spoiler alert, I did not win. Also spoiler alert, it is much later in the week. In fact, it is the next week. So very sorry about that, things got quite busy. Yeah. Anyway, onwards. So tournament report. In the end, we were actually lucky to have a tournament, and it turns out that the tournament in Dublin on the Saturday didn't happen. There were only 3 people at that one. There ended up being 4 people in Kilkenny. Hopefully it's just a coincidence, just bad timing, and not a sign of bigger things or something more worrying in the Netrunner community in Ireland. Although that could be a possibility as well. So not ideal. But anyway, there was 2 of us initially, myself and Owen, just staring each other down, going, "What are you playing? What are you playing?" But in the end, we were joined by Titus. And then Bill came along, who wasn't even planning to play. He was just like, "Oh, I'll show up a little late, rock on in and spectate some games." And then he was like, "You have to play." So he ended up playing Owen's 2 alternative decks that he had brought. Owen was kind of preparing, just in case he was going to get some side games. He was going to bring these decks, play them in preparation for Worlds. But instead Bill showed up and was able to test them for him. I'm not sure, but got to play them anyway, and at least we got a tournament going. So my first game was up against Bill, who had never seen these decks before, which I am very glad of, because he was playing a link-based Kate, and I was playing Controlling the Message, which does not like those Kate decks. So a little bit of unfamiliarity with the deck itself obviously helped, and probably the fact that he wasn't expecting to play. Control the Message got off to a good start for me. I was getting a lot of things installed, a lot of assets, but I wasn't finding agendas, and I really could have used them much earlier than I saw them. Sensi was ploughing away, trying to do work. I was drawing like a madman, just not finding anything that I needed. I think in the end they all kind of came together. Now I did get quick scores out. He wasn't entirely sure what was in the deck, so Clot, for example, didn't hit the table, which I was very, very glad of. I think I got him tagged in the end, and it was just an exchange of information for the win. But yeah, Control the Message had things locked down pretty well. It was a very good performance by the deck there, but it wasn't quick enough in that particular moment. On the return side, Bill was playing Replicating Perfection. Owen has some interesting pieces of tech, which I won't go into here. I mean, the world champions of the world are probably not going to be watching this, but maybe it's good for some things to remain a surprise. But yeah, Bill playing RP. Not sure of his experience level with it, but it was a tough game. He did not see the agendas he would have liked to at the time he needed them. The first Nisei came out very, very slowly, and in fact I think I scored the first one, and that was after getting a couple of siphons off and things like that. And that is really the agenda you want to score early to prevent that kind of thing, or soak up a couple of siphons, but stuff the really important runs. I was keeping him quite poor. I was trashing some assets that needed to be trashed. He was also using boot camp quite regularly, which perhaps he shouldn't have. It did give me a bit more insight into which servers were easier or better to run. So for example, I put a Temujin contract down and I knew what I needed to get into Archives, for example, or I didn't have to worry about Crick. So that was possibly, a learning experience for himself. Again, he hadn't played the deck before, so understandable that a couple of things you'd be a bit rustier on. And when you see a card saving you money, you kind of think, yeah, of course, I have a bit of money now, I might as well get things rezzed on my terms, but you are giving away that hidden information element. Now, unfortunately, it was Cygames that came back to haunt me. And not for the first time, or not for the last time, I should say. For the first time that day. Probably not the first time ever in Netrunner, but besides the point, I digress. Just couldn't win a Cygame on Future Perfect. Knew it was there. I think I eventually won one after getting quite poor. But yeah, the game was tipping on. I managed to get up to 5 points and time was called. So I don't think we were playing particularly slowly. I'm not sure where time went. Control the Message really should have sped things up a little bit. So yeah, time was called and I had kind of a last few Hail Mary runs. So I needed to get a Siphon, to get very, very poor, or just get good at Cygames, or run the right server. So in the end, I had a couple of Turning Wheel tokens built up. I went for a run on R&D and I decided I'll see 2 cards. I might be able to see 2 from HQ, but it left me with a kind of an odd number of tokens. So in reality, I possibly should have committed to one or the other, as in just use all the tokens on one run and maybe hope for a Future Perfect on HQ. In the end, I don't think I got the Future Perfect, or I lost the Cygame. Some people just don't want the series to end, it seems. But sickeningly, it turns out that had I gone for the 3 card on R&D, would have gotten an Issei and would have won the game. So, a win and a time to win. Into round 2, I was up against Owen, as is tradition, but much, much easier or more expected in a smaller tournament. He was playing his Valencia, which I've come up against before, and he was also playing as HB, which he is currently testing out. So Valencia, I thought would be a rough match for Control the Message, especially because he is kind of teching for that kind of playstyle, that kind of tag-based deck, because let's face it, it is everywhere. I mean, even with it winning so many tournaments, it still keeps cropping up and it still wins, so it's still good. So you're looking at a Val with like Rebirth for Wizard or Eddie Kim, depending on which you think is more necessary. You have Sunset Slums, which just completely shuts down Control the Message, and Bad Pub goes a long way towards helping. But his draw was the issue. He got Wildside down nice and early, couldn't find Prototype though, and couldn't seem to get Economy up to be able to challenge, trashing stuff, plus running, plus staying safe from hard-hitting news or just random tag-based things. So he was in a tricky spot. I threw out a load of assets, was able to get a couple of scores off the table, had good assets that were necessary, and in the end he kind of thought it's time to go for a Hail Mary. With a Global Food in his score area, he decided, I just gotta go for it, go for R&D. I was kind of lucky with the timing of reses, things like that. For example, he trashed a resistor with a Parasite, and I got another one down, but I also had a Dad Raven, and the Dad Raven was protected by these resistors that were just sacrificial, meant that the Parasites had to go for them. He wasn't able to put the medium down as early as he would have liked, and in the end he thought, I just gotta go for it, put down the medium, ran through the Raven, but took a tag in the process, and so my final turn was just exchange of information for the Global Food. As I always seem to do against someone, I just played really, really fast, really, really rushy, and just managed to outpace him. So Valencia, I know myself, can cost you with the 50 card deck. I've joked about it in the exchange of information, for example, when I was playing with Damien, where it was a case of, you always got to expect the blackmail, unless I'm playing it, in which case I don't draw the blackmail at all until the very, very end. On the return side then, it was HB up against Criminal, and Andromeda was doing pretty well for a while. I was getting nicely set up, I had my breakers going, I was challenging places, putting on good pressure. And then the Cygame happened. I ran R&D with an X goal that I knew about, and a Batty behind it, which I hadn't considered, which was really annoying because Rumour Mill, that card that I am considering replacing, was in hand. Would have been the perfect saviour to just go, nope, that's blank. But instead, Cygame for my entire rig, basically. And sure enough, lost it. So I lost a Mongoose and my Gordian Blade in the process. At that point, I think I had 2 points, but then he got a Cronus project scored, and all of a sudden I was looking at a Mongoose, a Fem, a Gordian Blade, and a Paperclip removed from the game. And I was sitting there going, right, this one's over. And I had a weird roller coaster of emotions and thoughts where, the instant reaction was, but then I kind of composed myself. I started thinking of what are my outs. I had Turning Wheel on the board, and I was getting a couple of tokens set up. I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe I can siphon him and make sure he can't res something. He's playing a lot of next ice, so I had to avoid next silvers. But then I ended up drawing for inside job as well. So I thought okay, he's going for a score here. I can build up a couple of Turning Wheel tokens and I can inside job and just hope for the best. Then after a while I might be able to get the other Mongoose or a Fairy down, get into HQ, maybe shut something down, maybe siphon him, just anything to keep him poor. So, not a great out, but went for the inside job into just using all the Turning Wheel tokens. Ended up getting 6 points, just got the other 2 Vitruvius, but not enough, and in the end he was able to score out. But at least I ran him close. And what I am particularly pleased with is that I managed to pull myself back from that whole I need to just shake his hand, this one's over, I'm not sure if I can make a comeback, or if he reses the next silver, this game's over, I might as well shake his hand. Because even when he did res the next silver, my thought process went into, okay, this isn't ideal, but I have Turning Wheel going, I have an inside job in my deck, so there is still something I can do here. Now unfortunately it was, close but no cigar, but... So, final game was up against Titus, an 11-year-old newcomer to Kilkenny. And it was a tough game. He was up as HB first, and it's really, really difficult to keep HB off 6 credits. Early on, I saw 2 Biotic Labours in his R&D, and he didn't have much in HQ. I think he had 2 cards, but yet I think I always missed the agenda. So he got a Global Food out really, really early. I couldn't draw my siphons. I couldn't draw anything that I needed urgently. Like breakers, because he had a server going and it was a disaster. So he got our Global Food scored pretty quickly, which was a surprise and also put a lot of pressure on me. As I said, I missed an agenda, must have missed an agenda in hand, so he was able to biotic that out, and I knew he had the other biotic, which meant it was just a case of him drawing a 3-2. And at that point you're like, how do you keep HB off 6 credits when there are so many ways for them to make money these days? Like, it's not like the good old days where, their install was their main driver of economy, and they'd have hedge funds as well, and they'd have to keep it honest, and Eves and all that kind of protected and taken over. No Breaker Bay back in the day, all that kind of thing. And it is incredibly hard. It got to a point where I had to run every server, every turn, basically. So I was putting pressure on HQ. I think a Temujin contract pointed there. If he installed anything in the remote, I had to go for that as well. I even went to the order, or to the hassle of special order, install Paperclip, run, and break through just to see nothing at all. Trying to run R&D for anything I could get. And HQ did manage to make one good run that got me a few points, 1-pointer and a 2-pointer, but it was a 4-2, so still not the card he was looking for. Now, I'm not sure if it was a poker face or bluffing me or psyching me out completely. He was in my head for sure, I'll say that much. But he would draw and be like, oh yes, great. And I'm like, do I have to run HQ? I think I do. Do I have to use my whole Turning Wheel tokens to see 2-3 cards out of 5 and hope for the best? Or if he needs to learn a bit of game theory and that you don't say yes when you draw your agenda that you're looking for. The one mistake I will say he made was resing a card or resing ice on HQ. I think he had 6 credits at the time. There wasn't a siphon coming in. So he dropped himself back to 3. He was getting closer, but kind of pushing himself further back at the same time. And I think had that ice not been resed, I think the win was on the cards for him, because I drew siphons when I needed them later on in the game, but at that point I was kind of running out of pressure, and I think that was the one mistake that kept me in the game. In the end, did manage to score out, and I think it broke him a little bit mentally. Into the second game, he was a bit less chuffed about things, a little less focused on things. I think he just kept drawing for particular cards, but not really playing to outs. understandable. New competitive experiences. But I think he's just got to keep the head up. The game win is coming. He was putting a lot of pressure on me with taunting as well, of going, oh, if you lose to an 11-year-old now, you'll have to quit your channel and all that. And I was like, if this happens, I really will have to quit my channel. What will people think? But yeah, the win is coming. I think he just needs to stay focused if a win doesn't go his way. But I think it's just the manner of the win that I took that may have taken the wind out of his sails completely. So in the end, I finished second. I was sitting beside Bill and Owen as they were playing their game out. Bill was close to a win. I think he managed to get to 6 points, but just couldn't find that last agenda. And had he managed to do it, I would have done it. I would have won. So instead I have the Alt-Art Haley, but not completely earned. Second place finish, and it was the timed win that threw me off, unfortunately. Had Owen only gotten a time win against Bill, it would have been tied for the top. The software had already given up the ghost because it can't deal with small numbers, because it assumes first and second have to play each other. But as happened the last time as well, first and second had played each other. So it was just like, nope, I'm not doing this. You're on your own. So had, there been a tie in all regards, the computer could have blown up. Recorded another game of my Near Throb Boom combo deck tonight, and again, it's just brilliant. I love it so much. It's quick, easy to play, it's efficient, and I think every game I've played so far has been like 10, maximum maybe 15 minutes. It's just fantastic. I love playing it. It's really nice when you can sit down and go, yeah, in 20 minutes time I'll be done. Be edited, probably be uploaded at that stage as well. At some point I will have to sit down and play against it, just to see what can be done. Tonight I did play a Sonny who had Vamp. That's definitely one way to go about it, but 10 credits is all you need, which is kind of crazy. So rumour mill, that's the way to go. But of course you're still playing against NBN, who can go, I scored a breaking news, find your other rumour mill. I must mess around with some other escalation stuff. I do want to try out Omer. At the moment Netrunner DB seems to be having an issue with publishing decks that are made with escalation, which means other people's creativity isn't online. So either I'll have to sit down myself and come up with some interesting stuff for Omer, or just wait a little while longer. In the meantime, I'm just blowing up houses, which is fantastic. Just on the boom deck, Paul Ward sent me a tweet earlier saying it was very out there brothers, or out there bros, boom boom boom, which is one too many booms unless I can find some way. There's definitely some way of sticking in a third one and firing all three. At first I didn't know what he was talking about, as in I had never heard the song before, and then I googled it and it was a chart topper, and I was like, I still don't know it. But then I actually listened to it on YouTube, and I don't think I've ever seen the video before. It's absolutely mental, but I do know the song.
Here we go. I said boom boom boom, now let me hear you say way oh, way oh. I said boom boom boom, now what about to say way oh, way oh.
Evening guys, so Fantasy Flight has unveiled the prizes for both Worlds and the 2017 kind of store championships, and unfortunately, the hedge fund is participation at Worlds. There were some early spoilers. People put up the art, and I thought this could be it. This could be a sign, hedge fund in a store kit next year. This would be my triumphant moment. It'd be fitting with the channel name, all that kind of stuff. But no, it's going to be Worlds instead. So we'll see if I can get my hands on that anyway. It is a lovely piece of art. This is possibly another reason to go to Push Your Luck this year in Cork. Last year the lads were very generous. There was an NAPD signed, which I happened to get, and we'll put it in a deck at some point. Maybe they'll be just as generous this year, who knows. But of course you couldn't begrudge them for not putting in an exclusive and probably lucrative and also expensive piece of art and alt-art card. One thing I will say though is I need to do spoilers of art and alt-art cards and prizes and things like that more often. I haven't been tweeting a lot with Satellite Grid. I did mention it in the last vlog that I haven't been doing a lot of the events and updates. I need to get back on that, but been doing a couple of tweets, escalation spoilers, and now this, that I did tweet out the hedge fund and pad campaigner artwork and the mat, I think, as well, and the results were pretty positive. Loads of activity, look at that, brilliant. And not to single anyone out, but allow me my fanboy moment. So I'm about to record Decklist of the Week at long last. This week it is Adam, which I'm curious to play, especially with the new directive. But a viewer of one of my videos, and I'm sorry I can't place your name right now, but hopefully I'll have a little text box here, said that I should clear out my library or set up a new account. It was actually just before I watched one of Kiv's videos where he said the same, that having a completely free library, free of all decks, will actually speed up performance of Jinteki.net, so maybe it's not my system, maybe. So I'm going to try that. I have a new account, it's iSize Hedge Fund, and if things start slowing down, maybe I'll go iSize Hedge Fund 2 and 3 and so on. But we'll try it out, see how it works, and hopefully things will get a little bit faster. It's worth a shot. It's certainly cheaper than a whole new system, so that's something. Something else I wanted to touch upon because of the tournament, and that is kind of gaining every advantage that you can, but legally, obviously. Playing the tournament, as I said, played against Owen, lost the Psy game, and that made the game much more difficult for me. Turns out later, Owen says that I have a tell when I'm playing Psy games. And, you know, he kind of hummed and hawed a little bit over whether or not to tell me. That conflict of, you know, being, a good member of the Netrunner community with, you know, wanting to be as competitive as you can be, wanting to be, maintain your spot up at the top. And you got this young whippersnapper, well, old whippersnapper, coming up chomping at the bit. But in the end, you know, good guy Owen, he decided he couldn't do another heel turn on me in this series, so did tell me in the end what it is. So when I play Psy games, apparently when I bid 2, I have a little handshake, or my hand shakes. Maybe that's the cheapskate in me coming out, or maybe it's the psychological thing of if I pay 2 and lose this Psy game, not only do I, you know, not get the agenda, not get to trash the Caprice, not get to keep my rig, but I've also spent 2 for the privilege of losing everything. It's definitely something I'm going to have to keep in mind, whether that be hide my hand until the very, very end, or have it on the table. Just find some way of working around it. I'd say myself and Oren are going to have a Mexican standoff of sorts of, you throw, you put your hand up first. Because I am pretty bad for, you know, having picked a thing and just having my hand out. And obviously that can come across me. But there's things like that I don't go for. Like, I'm conscious of psyching myself out, I think. So if I'm picking cards from someone's hands and they're looking at the cards, I tend not to look at them at all. Psy games, I tend not to look at people either. So I should be looking in their eyes an awful lot more, maybe. Learn how to read people. Or still go with the rolling dice, but I don't know, keep an eye on them just to see if there is that moment of relief or something in their face, in their eyes. And things like that are what make, you know, the top players so good, is they pick out every little thing about you. You'll see a lot of them are completely stone-faced when it comes to playing games. Dave Hoyland, for example, one of the best players to watch when he's under pressure, because you wouldn't tell looking at him that everything is falling down around him. I remember at UK Nationals, and yet Dave was just stone-faced. It was brilliant to watch. And Owen himself has said he doesn't play online so much because it nullifies one of his greatest strengths, which is, you know, people reading. Well, that is something I lose out on from playing online so much. So it's Wednesday, it's gotten to a point in the week where there's no point putting up a vlog from last week. So instead it's going to be a 2 for this week, but thankfully this week hasn't been that interesting. Over the last couple of days, obviously I've been under the weather. Just about got the games out for Tuesday. There was nothing on Monday, nothing today. Today's Wednesday. I may have said that. Last night was struggling to... yeah, I was in no fit shape to record last night. Today, feeling better. So we'll get stuff done and dusted. Hopefully get stuff recorded. This weekend should be easier to get things up for the following week. I suppose to touch on the latest bit of interesting news, people have noticed that there's a kind of a skip when it comes to product numbers that Fantasy Flight is putting out. But yeah, people have noticed that there's a jump between 2 data packs with nothing in between. And now the speculation is, what is it going to be? Some people seem to think it's a core set 2.0. Others might think it's big box, but probably not faction specific. So I'm really curious to see what it's going to be. The other news on a personal standpoint is that I have 2 tournaments coming up to look forward to. GaelCon is next weekend, as in the end of October, the long weekend in Ireland. There's a tournament on Saturday and on Monday, so I have to try and get myself organised and prepared for that. I don't know yet what decks to bring. I don't know how serious people are going to take it. There was a good stand there last year, although it was a small tournament, but people were still there to play. There's still good prizes on offer, so you know, we'll see what we go with in the end. But that's something to prepare for in the future. It means that you'll have a dual tournament report to look forward to that following week. And yeah, aside from that, not too much to update you on. So either on to the next clip or an outro. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me in spite of this. I managed to stay somewhat congestion free for the bad publicity videos, but I do have to record one of my own games, so hopefully I can kind of get myself clear and get that game recorded. Probably going to play the Boom deck again for the 6th time, because it's fun. Sure, people are calling it, you know, cheesy and all that kind of thing, and it has a lot of ways it could lose, but I haven't played it in the competitive lobby much. Should get some practice in with it, and at least it's quick and efficient. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you, let's say, Saturday this week with the next vlog.